and welcome back to our channel. I'm Acacia.
And I'm Michael.
And this is our kitten Rusks.
We've been traveling in South Africa for the last 2.5 years and we wanted to share our story with you.
We're going to be going through how we hit the road from living in a house to moving onto the road full time. So let's take you right back to the start in 2020.
We were both studying in Durban at the time. I was studying cinematography.
And I was doing a photography course, and during that time we made it a mission to try camp as often as we could. We both really enjoyed the outdoors, so every weekend or so we would go out somewhere. Hello, welcome back to vlog number 6. For the past few weeks we've been back in Durban at varsity, so we just decided to come up to a place called Eagles View for the weekend.
So we just got to Eagles View and we've got this whole campsite to ourselves this weekend, which is absolutely insane. We started together camping, so we had nothing at all. On our first camping trip we went via a marketplace detour, picked up a 500 rand tent and hit the road with just a tent. And yeah, each time we went on a camping mission we got one new item. It was very low budget. We had next to nothing because we were studying. We weren't working at that time, but yeah, we wanted to camp and be outdoors when we could.
After our studies, we moved back to our hometown, East London, and we rented out a house there.
Yeah, this was a 3-month plan or so. Acacia had like an internship with a very much corporate job. So we got a foot in that, and then yeah, we didn't know what our plan was after that.
Throughout our camping trips, we started to figure out something called van life. We were consuming everything on Instagram and YouTube, people living this lifestyle, and we thought that it would be a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, so we looked at all the layouts, all the different vans, the different sizes, and yeah, just scoured the internet for vans in South Africa. There aren't many of these panel vans around, unfortunately. So I was looking every single day on all the platforms, trying to find a van. Our budget was very, very small. We couldn't really budge on that as we were just starting from nothing basically. So yeah, we looked for how long, like 6-7 months?
Yeah.
Every day basically, and we eventually decided that we couldn't just keep looking, you know.
And one day Michael suggested that we looked at upgrading the vehicle that we had to something that we could afford. So at the time we had a little Getz, its name was Olaf, and we decided to upgrade to a Suzuki Jimny, which was 4x4, so we thought it would be able to take us a bit more adventurous places.
Yeah, so it was a great decision in the end.
Yeah.
We got a lot of fun out of that little car. But yeah, that wasn't our goal. It wasn't to get a new car, it was to get a van, but we couldn't afford it at the time, so we just had to take that step. It was a step forward in the right direction. It wasn't the end goal, but yeah, it was it.
One of the highlight trips for us from the Jimny was a trip to the Transkei. We went to Wild Labanzi and tested out the 4x4 properly for the first time together.
Yeah, it was actually quite a magical one because we were up on the hill and there was this beautiful sunset, and I actually snapped a photo and entered into a competition, the Eastern Cape Tourism Competition, and it won us a 30,000 rand trip around, or in the Eastern Cape. So that gave us another like push to see what's out in the country, you know.
We'll get to that a little bit more further on in the video.
And about 2 months into our stay in East London, we were told that the house we were staying in was going on the market and we weren't allowed to stay in it anymore.
We weren't sure what to do. We were actually looking at other houses and flats to rent out, but
in East London, that is, you know.
yeah. But ultimately we decided to hit the road as we had a job on the opposite side of the country, so we thought we'd make a whole road trip out of it.
Yeah, one job took us a month onto the road. We just kind of used the money from that job and just put it towards travel. It was a choice that we made to see how far that could go. And on that road trip we went to Transkei, KZN, Sodwana. We went diving for the first time. We got caught in snow. So it was so enjoyable, and we ended up extending that trip by a few days because we just enjoyed it so much and we weren't that excited or keen to get back home yet, you know, well, East London.
Yeah, we just wanted to extend our time on the road. A lot of people have questioned how we could fit all our belongings into a Suzuki Jimny, and quite a few months before hitting the road we actually started selling off our things that we weren't using, looking around the house what we didn't need anymore, and keeping only what we really did want.
Yeah, and just minimizing on buying things. Don't buy chocolate every single time you go to shops. Don't eat out supper, just eat at home. It's just as good. It costs way more eating out. And it's just have to do it for that short amount of period until you break into that amount where you can get what you were looking at doing.
So we camped here at Albert Falls Dam and we thought we would show you around our campsite. Over here we have our 2011 Jimny. We built this platform just before we left to help us with packing. And then over here we've got our water. In here we usually slot our fridge, which is outside at the moment. And then down here we've got these 2 solar panels which we use for our lights at night. And then most nights we braai, otherwise we've got a gas cooker as an alternative. Outside here is our workstation as well as living area, and then we've got our 50-litre National Lunar fridge. Down here we've got food boxes as well as miscellaneous, which is just pots and mugs and things. And then our tent. Also our bedroom. And then the last purchase before our trip was our awning, since our last one got taken out by the winds we put our fridge.
After about our first month and a bit on the road, we decided to head back towards the Eastern Cape. We had a wedding there that we had scheduled before all this all happened. So we headed back, shot the wedding, and then we had planned to go on that 30k road trip that we spoke about earlier.
So we planned to do a loop right around the Eastern Cape border. We were looking for off the beaten track remote Airbnbs that were quirky and adventurous to get there.
I think we went to around 10 or so in the month and a half on the road. We made it our mission to try and make these accommodations more found for the people that were following us.
Throughout this time on the road we realized that South Africa really has so much to offer, so we wanted to figure out how we could continue doing this full time, but we're not too sure yet how. We got back to our hometown and our family actually had an old caravan that had been sitting for quite a few years. It was bought back in 2013 and it hadn't really been used for about 7 years, so it was kind of getting rotten and mice were moving in, so we thought we would do a caravan renovation.
Yeah, and the Caravan was built way back then, so it didn't look the best according to us. It was very dark woods inside, and very like claustrophobic. There was like a changing room that we wanted to get rid of. We're going to be giving an in-depth video about what we did and how we did it and why we made the decisions to do that.
Yeah, so we never had an intention of towing this caravan. It was always just going to stay in its location to kind of be a cozy spot for us to head back to if we didn't have any travel plans.
Yeah, so at this point in time, we had just done a month and a half on the road, so we had like a 3-week gap until our next job. And in that little 3-week gap, we decided to tackle this caravan and start renovating it or giving it a facelift type of thing. There was mostly demolition, wasn't really building.
Yeah, it was our first renovation project, so we kind of just wanted to give it a new feel and aesthetic. So as Michael was saying, the scariest part was taking out there was like an enclosed bathroom area. It wasn't really a bathroom, kind of just a sink, and we decided to pull that out so that the whole space would be free flowing. And Michael was basically just ripping that out with his hands. It was quite scary because there was no going back.
Yeah, just taking a hammer, smashing it and pulling and trying our hardest. All the nails and screws inside that caravan were rusted to pieces, so made it a bit tricky taking it all out. But it definitely opened up the space a lot.
It was a good decision.
Yeah.
The next thing we did was to paint the whole space. This was quite a few days worth of work because we had to do a few layers. We did the top half like a white coat, and then we decided to do the bottom a half-tone blue color to match the beach where it's parked up at.
The blue came out a bit bluer than we wanted, but that's why we went and did this project, to practice and learn and figure out what we're going to do, because as we spoke about in the last video, our main goal is to get a van in the end and build out a van. After that, we then got our curtains redone, we got the cushions redone, so that also made the place look a lot newer, well not newer, fresher. And then our next step was to do the flooring, I think.
That was the most difficult part, doing the flooring. It was our first time flooring, and I don't think we did it entirely correctly, but the next time we did, it was much better. So
yeah, we bought tongue and groove flooring, and there was some special technique and tool you were supposed to have, so
just winged it. We also decided to take a walk down to the beach one day, and we collected a whole bunch of driftwood to use as our handles to kind of
looking for random pieces of wood, and we would find this cool piece, and then we would drill it into the cupboard, and then it would snap. Yeah, so a few broke in the process, a few didn't, so it came out in the end a lot nicer than I thought it would. I would like to incorporate that again sometime in our lives.
And I think the biggest transformation as well was also moving the caravan. So we kept it inside the same campsite, but we just moved it to a new site where there was quite a lot more shade and there were some trees, so we hung up our hammock, we put some chairs outside, and we had a little braai area.
I think we did the caravan for about 2 weeks roughly, on and off. We weren't there like in consecutive days, we would just go there in our gaps, and when we had time we were working. A really cool project that we learned in the caravan was we learned how to laminate wood together. So the guys at the campsite that we were staying at offered to help us with this. They had a workshop and had done woodworking before. So what we did was we had these long pieces of plank, old pieces of plank, and then we glued them together overnight, and then we took a sander and sanded it down, and it came out with this big piece of wood from little pieces of wood. So yeah, it was quite interesting to learn how to do that. It came out really cool, and we'd like to do that again as well.
We were super happy with the end result that we had accomplished, so we'll show you guys some before and after.
When we started this project on the Caravan, we just had the intentions of making this like a fun project and practicing for future projects. So in the end, like we said in the previous video, we want to get a van and we want to self-convert the whole thing and build it, paint it, do everything. So this was just practicing for that.
We definitely did learn a lot through that project, and it wasn't our intention to live in there full-time forever. As Michael mentioned, we really wanted to get a van, but we'll share more of our story in next week's video. We've got some big news to share.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe down below. We'll see you guys in the next video.
Let's take you back to 2021 at the end of the year when we had been homeless for about 8 months, and we found this van on the market by some miracle in our hometown.
Yeah, so we had been searching every day for the last 8 months looking for a van, but yeah, for some reason it popped up in East London, and it was even someone that I had known from the past, so it was a really good sign. But at that point in time we had a Suzuki Jimny, and we couldn't just purchase this van like straight up cash, so we had to cross a few stepping stones first to get to buying this van, which was putting our Suzuki Jimny on the market, finding a seller, selling it, then getting the money across, and then purchasing this van.
We spotted it around our hometown. When we sold the Jimny, we had a little bidding war for it, and the highest person got it back in our hometown, so we've seen it driving around a few times.
What's up guys, and welcome back to this YouTube channel. My name is Michael.
And I'm Acacia. For the past 6 months we've been traveling full time in our Suzuki Jimny, and we've clocked up 20,000 kilometers all throughout South Africa.
Exciting news, we're going to be upgrading from this little car to something a lot bigger, so stay tuned and see what we're getting.
The van was a 2016 Fiat Ducato. It was completely empty shell inside and it had 216,000 kilometers on the clock, which wasn't a big deal for us because these are panel vans. They're meant to drive far and it fit into our budget, so we were very keen. We just had to sell our Jimny.
Yeah, and the other reason we went for this size van was because of the licenses here in South Africa. It's the biggest van that you can go with the normal Code 8 license. So we didn't want to go with going through like another whole licensing thing to, you know, get a bigger van.
So we had to get to converting the interior, but we had work across the country, so we only had 3 days to temporarily kit out the van, so we needed to go buy supplies.
So we first went to the shops and bought a whole bunch of wood and supplies, and yeah, got to it. So today is going to be the first day of our van build.
We're going to start off with sound deadening.
We did a big shop a few days ago, and this is what we've bought so far. We've got some plywood over there, different thicknesses. We've got a 18mm and a 12mm. Then we've got some tongue and groove, and then we've got some pine wood.
We also got gifted some bigger wheels, which was quite nice for the off-roading that we were going to be doing.
Then we've also been given a new set of wheels, because the set of wheels that we've got in our van at the moment are like city tires, so these ones have got a bit of a bigger tread. Then this here is some sound deadening mat, which we're going to be doing right now, which Acacia just said. And now we've got screws and some tape that we're going to be putting in the grooves of the floor. And yeah, that's about it so far.
Moving inside the van, we started off with sound deadening. So this is a mat that you stick onto the panels, which kind of helps with the sound when you're driving around.
And this was not an intention for now. This was just a thing that we wanted to get done because we had the van. This was going to be for us later on when we do the finished build.
Yeah, long-term planning for that one.
After that, we moved into the furring strips, which was then also planning ahead, but also making the support structures for our bed.
Yeah, so we were able to fix a lifted bed inside the van so we could pack a lot of stuff underneath.
So basically what we're doing is we've got this 12mm plywood. We're going to be cutting strips of 10 millimeters wide, and we're going to put them into the ribs of the van.
Just finished cutting all of our furring strips, and we're going to secure them to the metal using self-drilling screws. They're also known as tech screws. You need to make sure that they got the little butterfly at the end so that they go straight through the metal. Today we are building the platform for our bed.
And then we had our old desk in Acacia's mom's house, which we took out and put it into the van with a chair and put a screen and a laptop, and that was where I did the work and did the cooking. Yesterday we finished the bed very late and packed the car, and now we have got a fully packed car and we're heading to Wilderness. So we'll show you guys the van there.
We just had a little gas bottle and our 50-litre National Lunar fridge that came from our Jimny. So it was a very basic setup, but considering we had just come from camping in a tent on the ground alongside our car, it was a big upgrade for us.
Yeah, huge upgrade. We were very happy. We were just trying to see if van life was for us. Living in such a small space with someone can be a bit tricky, but yeah, we just wanted to step into it and see what it would be about, how it would change our travels and how we could stay on the road for longer.
Yeah, so we did the most of what we could with the space and the time we had, and we hit the road for the next 2 months to test out van life.
You're gonna have to subscribe and see what happens in the next week's film. Welcome to our first week of van life. We are Michael and Acacia, and 1 month ago we purchased this panel van.
With only 3 days to temporarily kit out the van, we hit the road for the next 2 months.
Join us as we figure out life on the road full time as we travel across South Africa.
This lifestyle is basically something that people choose, whether it's long-term or short-term, and basically you have a setup in a self-propelled vehicle, usually a van, where you can cook inside, have a sleeping setup, and basically all your things with you.
Yeah, you can either convert it yourself or you can get someone to convert it for you. Just depends on if you want to tackle the project or not, but we found that by converting it yourself, it's a lot cheaper. There's companies that do it for you, but the prices were way out of our budget.
Yeah, it's just a minimalistic way and simple lifestyle, being outdoors most of the time and having the van as a vessel to be comfortable and keep on the move.
Van life is basically just traveling in a van. That's basically your home. The types of people that we think that would enjoy van life would be someone that's very adventurous or likes to seek outdoors. We just love the feeling of just opening the doors and stepping outside and just exploring nature every single day and being one with nature.
And feeling like we are at home in different places all over the world.
Yeah, everything we own is with us 24/7, which is awesome. Like, to me, if I want to get something, I know it's in the van.
Yeah, everything's very purposefully thought out. It has a spot in the van and that's where it goes every time.
Yeah, and also going back to building it, we built this one ourselves, so we did everything the way we wanted to do it, the way we saw it fit well. So that's also something that you can do. It's a very small space, so you can make it fit and do exactly what you want it to do.
Our first 2 months on the road was a really great time for us to sort of get a feel for the space inside the van. As we only had 3 days to temporarily kit out the interior, it was very basic and we kind of got a feel for where the bed was, where the kitchen was, and how we would do things in the future.
On that note, this is a temporary build. In the last video, we're going to be stripping this all again and building a proper van. Well, not a proper van, a proper home inside the van.
So let's take you on our first trip in the van.
The reason for this road trip and our 3-day build was because of work, and that's how we make a living on the road. We create marketing content for brands and establishments, so we are on the way to an Airbnb to create marketing content for them. And it wasn't just one, we had four booked along in the 2 weeks. That's why we got this van.
In our free time, we were able to book into campsites and kind of get a feel for the areas that we were in and explore new places as opposed to driving back and forth to a home base.
We got to spend more time in the areas that we were traveling to. And when we first started traveling on the road, that's one of the reasons that we bought the van. We'd always drive to some place, then drive all the way back home. We found that very annoying, and we just wanted to stay on the road. But weather, many other things, price of accommodation, all that was a big factor. So yeah, let's jump back into the road trip. After the first 2 weeks on the road, the work that we had planned for a bit was complete. So we then took a detour down to the beach and visited 4 garden route campsites.
Having the van was promoting a lot more outdoor time, so we were able to visit local beaches and national parks before we got our cat. able to close up the space when bad weather came and be in a cozy environment.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons that always chased us away from the road. We were living in a tent, so tent, rain, wind, all that was not comfortable, especially when you've got camera gear and all the electronics and trying to do work. So that always chased us home or booking into an Airbnb for a long period of time. So weather was a big factor, but now we've got a metal van. We can just close the door and we're happy, and there's space.
Yeah, I think that's when we really started to fall in love with this lifestyle. We had a cozy environment, but also we could be outside cooking and just spending time together.
Yeah, so after our 4 garden route campsite on the route to Cape Town, we left Cape Town en route to West Coast.
Found some really beautiful beach campsites. We opened up our doors and we just lay in bed, mesmerized by the ocean and golden sunsets over the sea, which we aren't really used to.
Yeah, and this was all from the comfort of our van, you know, and we had driven it from East London to the West Coast now. So we had our home on the other side of the country, which is awesome. Again, tick for van life.
This week we decided to head up the west coast of South Africa, stopping at 3 coastal towns with stunning beach camps.
We arrived at Azefontein and headed down to the beach for a windy but beautiful sunset over the sea. Then headed back to camp for some supper. We then made our way to Lambert's Bay, skipping a lot of the coast with the intention of stopping at some of these places on the way back.
Camp was situated with the perfect view over the beach. We set up camp for a few days where we watched pink luminescent sunsets over the sea.
After some time along the coast, we started making our way inland into the Cederberg Mountains, which was a first for both of us.
It's a place I heard about a lot while traveling the country, and we were super excited to be here.
We were actually there during the summertime, so let's not forget to mention that it was extremely hot and our van wasn't even insulated at the time. We didn't have windows or an air vent.
Yeah, it was really hot. Like, I remember one morning opening the van at like 6 o'clock because it was too hot to be inside anymore. But I can say now, having an insulated van is completely different.
Yeah, so we spent our days finding mountain springs to swim in and seeking out shade under the trees, but we really enjoyed our time there and we have been back many times.
Yeah, we're currently in the Cederberg right now.
As you may know, last week we were on the west coast camping along the beach, but this week we found ourselves in the Cederberg mountain area.
Uncovering hidden campsites, hiking the mountains, finding waterfalls and enjoying every sunset.
We woke up to a misty morning at camp, located at the foot of the Cederberg mountain in the Cederberg. We spent the morning catching up on work, then decided to head out for lunch.
We did a short 30-minute hike up the mountains where we found huge boulders emerging out the ground. with viewpoints overlooking camp and the surrounding farm.
As we climbed higher, we found a spot to sit, taking in the sounds, views, and some food.
One of our favorite things about this lifestyle is that when we have free time, we get to explore different backyards and landscapes like this one.
After a few days exploring the Cederberg, we started to make our way home via the Cape Winelands.
This week we set off along the Cape Wine route, leaving Cape Town in the direction of our hometown.
We are Michael and Acacia, and this is our van, Yeti. With only 3 days to temporarily kit out the van, we hit the road.
Join us as we figure out life on the road full-time, traveling across South Africa.
This week we found ourselves parked up along the Breede River among vineyards and mountains on the water's edge.
We woke up nice and early at our first campsite, made some arrow coffee along the river's edge, and watched the sun rise.
We enjoy a slow morning, sometimes with an activity to get the body moving before we get work done.
We camped along the Breede River, which is one of South Africa's biggest rivers. We actually stopped at a few campsites along the river on our way up.
And we were parked among the grape vineyards, so it's just super awesome to see that.
Towering blue gum trees and along the Breede River down below.
After setting up camp, we sent the drone up for a view of the surrounding landscapes, while we lay under the shady trees jotting down some goals for 2022.
Until finally we were back in the Eastern Cape, where we visited Addo Elephant National Park.
This is one of our favorites. There are so many elephants there, and also when you get to camp there, you get to visit the reserve super early and super late. So yeah, we made advantage of that. We visited the reserve as much as we could.
That trip has actually still been one of the best elephant experiences that we've ever had, and we spotted the lions in that trip, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, there were so many elephants, and yeah, you'll just have to wait and see.
The great thing about doing game drives with your house in the back is that you can stop anywhere and enjoy a cup of freshly brewed Arrow coffee.
In total, we visited over 25 campsites in our first 2 months on the road, which just goes to show how easy it is to be on the move in a van.
Which goes on to why we chose the van and this lifestyle. We had seen this online and we had just really wanted to try it out. And after that 2 months on the road, we can definitely say that we were keen to keep going.
Since we were already traveling and we had been in a tent, this was a much better setup for us. We had no prior woodworking experience, but we decided to tackle the whole entire conversion by ourselves.
We did the conversion for a 2-month period, working from very early in the morning to late at night. It was our main project at the time, so we didn't really have any other work, but it was super fun to do.
Starting off with what you could call the veins of the van, we were wiring the electrical wires and we had to figure out where we wanted to put all the plugs, which was quite a tricky step.
Yeah, so this is also something that we've never done before. We went to YouTube to figure out how to do it, how to wire a plug, where the earth goes, where all that goes, where to put a switch in and all that. So yeah, we figured it out from the get-go. So that was step one, was wiring. Then we jumped to the insulation of the van, and this was a very big step because we can definitely tell the difference with the insulation in. Some days when you step inside the van, it's like 10 degrees cooler than what's outside. So it made a huge difference.
Yeah, the car is basically insulated like a normal house, so it is not like a normal car sitting in the sun. It really made a huge difference to our travels.
Yeah. The scariest part of the van build by far was definitely cutting all the holes in the van. We started off with the smallest hole, 1 of 4, which was the electrical port. So we just took a round saw and just went straight through. We did it eventually. Yeah.
This was our brand new van, so it was very intimidating to cut holes through the metal. There was no going back.
Normal people just don't cut holes in vehicles.
The next thing that we really wanted to do was install 2 windows, so Michael went to that with a jigsaw blade.
We literally made a template, put it up against there, coke-keyed it out, jigsaw, and then we put our windows in. And now we've got 2 windows in our van, which it's made a huge difference.
Yeah, it creates a really nice cross breeze through the van when they open, and just installing those was a huge arm workout, so we appreciate them every day.
And then moving up from that was the roof vents. Jumping onto the roof, this was always a scary part. Cut a square hole into there, and then we got a roof fence which we can open and close from inside. It's one of my favorites. At night time, there's a lot of cross breeze, so
Yeah, we would definitely recommend installing an air vent, and in our next van conversion, I think we would maybe even go up to 2. The most time-consuming project of the van was definitely doing the roofing, as this is the biggest surface area and the most eye-catching.
it was also very tricky to be working above your head all the time and trying to figure out how to hold like 4 different corners with just the 2 of us. So we had like poles sticking up against the roof. But yeah, and it also, there's like 4 different layers to the roof with the roof layout that we went for. We've got strips of Meranti with some ply behind it, and then the insulation and the wiring and the roof structure that goes into all of that. So yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that I'm quite short, so we had to keep all those layers in like a cake.
And then with our roof, we really liked the end project. It was pieces of Meranti wood that we had in my uncle's workshop.
They weren't being used at the time, so he offered them up to us, and we spent quite a few days sanding them down to see if we could actually use them for the roof, and we really love how they came out in the end.
Something we didn't enjoy with our van build, and was also the most challenging, was our floor to ceiling pantry. We tried to build this from scratch. Well, we didn't try, we actually did achieve it. From the get-go it was difficult.
We attempted to build the entire structure from wood by ourselves, which was way out of our woodworking abilities. The final pantry ended up being super heavy and pretty expensive because of all the wood that we used, and we figured out that we actually could have just bought a metal one from a kitchen supplies shop.
Yeah, that would have been way easier. Like, it still works right now after 3 years of living in the van, and we're very grateful for it. There's so much food storage, but wow, it was very challenging. I remember like 3 or 4 days going into it.
A lot of time.
And we nearly gave up, but yeah, now we got it.
Our favorite part was when the van started coming together, our vision was coming to life.
We started off by doing our countertop, which has got a resin tint and looks like an ocean. This was done with a friend of ours, and then we've started moving in the kitchen supplies like the sink and the stove. Putting in the final details like the mesh and the ropes and the curtains and then the linen. So yeah, that was just creating our tiny space our own.
Yeah, all the aesthetics and making it feel like our home. It was then time to move all of our things in, so we started packing our clothes, our kitchen supplies, and food.
One thing you might not notice from when we hit the road back then is that we didn't have any exterior accessories. This only came into play about 8-9 months onto the road.
It made such a big difference as we had a whole bunch more storage on the roof, and as you can see, we've got an awning which makes shade at our campsite, so it was just a whole bunch of accessories that we could add and benefit our lives.
Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff on the roof, like all of our shoes and 2 longboards, gas storage, water storage. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on there, so it's always a must-have. There's a lot of space up on the roof.
Yeah, just maximizing everything with tiny living. It's time to give you guys a quick tour of Yeti the van. We built this space ourselves, so let's show you inside. First of all, we have a large bench area. We spend a lot of time enjoying the views or getting some work done. We have a swivel table that we built using plumbing pipes. Behind here is our laundry chute. It goes into the garage. Underneath the bench is our 50-litre National Lunar fridge. It slides out and opens at the top. Moving this way, up above, we have a lot of winter storage. This is where all of our warm clothes go. We have a toilet compartment over here. Down below is a floor-to-ceiling pantry, which is where we store a lot of our dry food, most of our dry foods. Into our kitchen, we can cook up a full meal in here with our 2-plate gas burner. We have cupboards with gas struts so they hold themselves up. We have mugs, bowls, plates, everything that you need. Little jars with extra storage. A hammock with fruits, and below that is our black tap with a sink that drains straight through. Going into our bedroom, we have a full double bed. Above my head is an air vent which releases in a lot of nice fresh air with the 2 windows. We each have a clothing compartment over here, and below that is a shelf with our laptops and some books. Michael will show you in the garage underneath the bed.
Welcome to the garage of Yeti the van. In this build we prioritize adventure gear, so we have a lot of stuff under here. We have got 2 surfboards, we normally have 2 e-bikes, they're out there at the moment. We've got bras, we've got gear for every type of sport, golf, 2 skateboards, hammocks, kayaks. There's a lot of stuff, so this is what we aim for with this build. Jumping up onto the roof via the ladder on the back. On top of our roof we have 4 boxes with all different types of gear, shoes, extra clothes, wetsuits, and over here we have 2 longboards, and then at the top here's our air vent. This roof rack adjusts according to what you want on the roof.
There's a push and there's a pull. There's a new moon and then it's full. The tide will rise and rise until it falls. And there's a rhythm to it all. There's a you and there's a me. There's a pattern in the chaos, a current in the sea. And there are times I wish I had a mountain top to see the rhythm of it all. Every spring leads to a fall, and there's a heart in every home. The young will always wish that they were older, and there's a rhythm to it all. There's a you and there's a me. There's a pattern in the chaos, a current in the sea. And there are times I wish I had a mountain top to see the rhythm of it all. What is new will be forgotten, and there's a use for the broken things you've lost. If you hold it loose, you'll find that there is room for the rhythm of it all. There's a you and there's a me. There's a pattern in the chaos, a current in the sea. And there are times I wish I had a mountain top